All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving deep into Amazon Bedrock. We're going to talk about how this service lets you tap into some of the world's most powerful AI models, and all it takes is a single API call. Pretty cool, right?
So if you're a developer working with generative AI right now, you know the scene has just exploded. It's like this amazing buffet of huge AI systems, what we call foundation models. But let's be honest, it's also a bit of a maze. Every model from every company has its own unique API, its own infrastructure headaches, its own quirks. It can get really complicated really fast.
And this right here, this visualizes the problem perfectly. On one side, you have the old way, which meant you were literally juggling all these different complex integrations, a separate one for every single model you wanted to experiment with. So you have to ask, what if there was a much simpler, more unified way to get to all of them? Well, that brings us right to the solution, which is Amazon Bedrock. You can think of it like a universal key, one that's designed to unlock this whole world of generative AI.
So what is it exactly? Well, Bedrock launched back in 2023, and it's a fully managed serverless platform. And really the key phrases to latch onto there are fully managed and single unified API. Because of that design, developers can just focus on building and scaling their AI apps, without ever having to stress about the infrastructure underneath.
And here's what that actually looks like. I mean, right from the AWS console, you get this incredible menu of choices. You can just click to select and enable these top-tier models from companies like Anthropic or Stability AI or even Amazon's own Titan models. It's all there in one central place.
Okay, so you've enabled the models you want to play with. The big question is, how easy is it to actually use them in your code? Let's break it down step by step.
When you get right down to it, it really just boils down to 4 simple steps, especially if you're using the AWS SDK for Python. You probably know it as Boto 3. And the great thing is, this is a pretty standard pattern for interacting with any AWS service. So if you're already in that ecosystem, it's going to feel super familiar. First up, you create the client. But hey, pay close attention here. Notice how the service name isn't just Bedrock, it's Bedrock Runtime. That's important. It's a specific endpoint that's used for making those real-time inference requests. When you're actually asking the model to do something, generate a response. And then, look at this. With just this one line of code, you invoke the model. That's it. You just tell it which model ID you want and you pass in your prompt. And what if you want to swap from, say, a Claude model to a Llama model? You literally just change that one model ID string. It really is that simple. This table here kind of explains the why behind that Bedrock Runtime name we just talked about. See, AWS is pretty smart about this. They separate their APIs into different endpoints. You've got a control plane for managing and training the models, and then you have a data plane, that's the runtime, which is totally optimized for the heavy-duty, high-performance job of actually running the inference. But look, just getting easy access to these models, that's really just the beginning. Where Bedrock shines is that it also gives you this powerful set of tools for security, for privacy, and for performance. It's all about giving you complete control. And this is what makes Bedrock truly enterprise-ready, It's not just some simple API. It's a whole platform. You get things like fine-grained security policies, you get content guardrails, and you even get the ability to connect these powerful models to your own private data. And the best part? It's all baked right in from the start. Take this, for example. You can use the standard AWS security controls that you're probably already familiar with. This is just a standard IAM policy. And with just a few lines of JSON, you can completely deny access to a specific foundation model for certain users or roles. That's what we mean by fine-grained control. Now let's talk performance, because you've got a choice here. You can stick with the default on-demand compute, which is a super flexible pay-as-you-go model that runs on shared infrastructure. Or if you've got a really high traffic application and you absolutely need guaranteed performance, you can pay for what's called Provisioned Throughput. And right here, you can see the difference kind of under the hood. On demand, that's a shared multi-tenant architecture. What that means is you're sharing hardware with other customers. Provisioned Throughput, on the other hand, gives you a completely private, totally dedicated deployment of the model. And get this, it can even be a version that you fine-tuned yourself, trained on your own private data. So let's step back for a second. When you put it all together, this incredible ease of access, plus these really powerful controls for security and performance, what does that all actually mean for you as a developer? Well, when you get right down to it, Bedrock's greatest strength is that it just abstracts away all the heavy lifting. It removes that immense complexity of deploying and managing these models. So you can spend way less time wrestling with infrastructure and more time on what actually matters, right? Building and innovating. I mean, think about it. You could prototype a chatbot using a super creative model like Claude for the conversation part, and then in the same app, seamlessly switch over to a more factual model like Titan for data lookups. And you could do all of that without having to rewrite your core application code.
This kind of streamlined access, it just opens up a whole universe of possibilities. We're talking about applications we haven't even dreamed of yet. So really, with the world's best AI just a single API call away, the only question left is, what are you going to build?